People often ask me, can I buy a rental property with a VA home loan? Now, I know there's a lot of people wanting to buy property, and the real downside is you cannot directly buy a rental property on the VA home loan. There are ways around it. In this video, I'm going to show you some legal ways around it. Now, you got to be very careful because there are a lot of rules about this. And, if you don't do it right, the loan can get called due and payable and be considered loan fraud. So definitely stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm going to show you exactly how to legally get an investment property with a VA home loan that actually meets guidelines, because we actually want to do things legal here, right? So first, bad news, VA home loan is designed for your primary residence only. Now, there are some ways around it. The first one is very common. It's called house hacking. Now, if you've never heard of house hacking or heard that phrase before, it's where you buy a multi-unit property and rent out the other units. And so the VA home loan actually allows you to buy up to 4 units, and it's still zero down. Now, I'll give you a quick example of this. I know somebody in Florida that I worked with a couple years ago. He's 100% disabled, making about $4,000 a month on disability, no other income. And he actually bought a fourplex, a $1 million fourplex in Miami. And you might be wondering, oh my gosh, that's insane. His payment was actually more than his income. Here's the crazy thing was he was able to use that rental income from those other units and actually get into that home. Now you might be wondering how the heck do you have the money for closing costs, all that? It's because he sold his old house. He had 100-something thousand in equity, and so he was able to do that. And so that's just one example. It's an extreme example, but it definitely can work out for you. So like I said, rental income actually can be used to qualify. And so in this particular case, he was getting $2,000 a month on the rents. Now he didn't own the house yet, but he had leases showing that the old landlord was collecting $2,000 a month for the other 3 units, so the $6,000 a month that could be used for qualifying. And so with that, there's enough cash flow there to make it work. There are some other things to know as well. And the first one is you will need to have some rental experience or get a property manager. And so in this particular case, the gentleman, he's an experienced investor, so there was no problem there. But if it's his first time, they will require you to have a property manager. Now, property managers aren't that expensive. It's usually a percentage of the rent, but you have to factor that into your costs. Oftentimes, your realtor, there either are property managers or they can recommend a property manager. Definitely, that's your first step in figuring out who that property manager is going to be. And you need to figure that out in your cash flow anyway, exactly how that's going to work with the property manager. And I've heard a lot of people say that if you're going to live on property, it's actually better to have a property manager anyway, because it's very, very hard to evict someone that lives next door to you if they know you run the building and they're your buddy and they're like, come on, man, let me stay. Yeah, all that. It's hard to have that business relationship when you live next to them. But if you're the property manager, you'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't know who owns this building. You can play dumb there. A lot of experienced investors have told me that. The other thing you have to keep in mind when using rental income towards qualifying is you need to have some money in the bank. You need 6 months of reserves, and that's where people get tripped up. They'll go to some seminar and be like, oh my gosh, I can get this rental property, and they have no money to their name. And you'll need 6 months of payments in the bank as cash reserves when you do this strategy. Because the VA wants you to be successful. Lenders want you to be successful. We don't want to be taking these things back, right? And you certainly don't want to have that on your record. And so they want you to have 6 months of payments, and that's to protect you, because what if one of those tenants has to get evicted, or they just are deadbeats and tear up the house or whatever? Things happen, right? So that 6 month of reserve just shows you have this financial stability to handle any sort of ups and downs in rents that might affect your cash flow. The other strategy we don't talk about here is buying a primary residence and rent out the old house. Now, this is where it gets tricky because, I've seen people be like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy a house, and then 30 days later, go buy another house. That can be considered loan fraud because they know that you weren't there long enough. You will sign papers at closing saying that you intend, keyword being intend, to occupy the property for 1 year. Now, people get really tripped up about this. They get all freaked out about this because the keyword here is intend to occupy. Now, we know things happen. There's PCSing happen, divorces happen, children happen, things happen, right? So you can get around that 1 year rule if you have what's called a change of circumstance letter. So what that is, just you write up a letter saying, I have a change of circumstance. So PCSing, certainly a change of circumstance. You retired, that's a change of circumstance. Got a new job, just in general, change of circumstance. Got married, it's a change of circumstance. Got divorced, a change of circumstance. Having children, all those types of things where basically say, I was in one situation when I bought this house, but that particular house does not meet my needs anymore. So I'm buying another house. And in those kind of cases, perfectly allowable. So, for example, I had one during COVID that the gentleman lived in San Antonio and his mother's here in the Dayton, Ohio area. And he's like, hey, I need to move to Ohio, see my mom. And even though he'd only had this property in San Antonio for 4 months, we were able to use that because we said, you know what? He has a valid and legitimate reason for leaving San Antonio and coming to Ohio. And so he was able to keep that other house and get a new house here in Ohio, and rent out that other fourplex and use that rental income towards qualifying. So those are a few rules about rental properties and VA loans. As always, check the links below because I have other related videos on some great topics regarding VA home loans. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. As always, if you have any questions about VA home loans or anything in general, feel free to give me a call. My number is 937-572-3713 or scoper.com. Thanks. Bye.